Welcome to this explainer. Imagine this. By the summer of 2028, the world economy hits a wall it has literally never faced before. We're talking about a paradox of infinite productivity, but zero consumers. Today, we're unpacking former Google ex-chief Mo Gawdat's incredibly urgent timeline for AI job replacement and the massive macroeconomic dilemma that comes with it. And look, Gawdat isn't just some outsider throwing stones here. He has been at the absolute bleeding edge of tech for decades. So his analysis, it isn't wild speculation. It's grounded in the very real, super fast trajectory of the technology we're building right now. Let's get into it.
Gawdat kicks things off by warning of a perfect storm hitting by the summer of 2028. We're facing all these geopolitical and economic pressures on one side, right? But on the other side, for the very first time in human history, we have a genuine way to replace human productivity with machines at a scale we've never seen. He says point blank, if your job is highly repetitive, think travel agents or call center workers, that disruption is already knocking at your door. Why? Because these roles are rule-based, they're data-driven, they operate on completely predictable patterns, which makes them the absolute easiest targets for large language models to automate today. Okay, moving into Section 1, the 2028 job takeover, the progression of automation.
To really prepare for what's coming, we have to understand exactly how this automation is going to unfold. The sequence starts right now with those mundane, repetitive tasks, but it definitely doesn't stop there. Next, it moves rapidly up the cognitive ladder to intelligent jobs. Think about paralegals, junior coders, or accountants. These are roles that require serious brain power, but zero physical labor. I mean, an AI can already draft a comprehensive legal brief in seconds, completely wiping out the billable hours a junior paralegal used to rely on. And then, in just 5 to 10 years, economies of scale are going to kick in, bringing special-purpose robots to physical manual labor. We aren't waiting around for a perfect walking, talking humanoid robot. Special-purpose machines, like self-driving car fleets, are already here, literally just waiting for the regulations to catch up.
Now, you'll hear people dismiss this all the time. They say, well, we've had technological revolutions before, and machines just created new, better jobs. But when we invented the tractor, human farmers didn't become obsolete. They just became tractor drivers. Gawdat argues that this era is fundamentally different. We aren't building a better tractor for a human to drive. We're building the digital farmer. We're talking about fully autonomous systems capable of total job replacement without needing a human operator at the helm. It is a massive structural shift from historical human assistance to absolute human substitution.
Which brings us to a huge systemic problem that triggers a catastrophic domino effect. If human workers are completely replaced by machines on a macro scale, what happens to the global economy when consumers no longer have an income? No jobs means no paychecks. And no paychecks, that means absolutely zero purchasing power. If human workers are entirely cut out of the equation, who exactly is buying the smartphones, paying for the streaming subscriptions, or buying the software? The entire system just grinds to a halt.
Let's explore that further in Section 2, the consumption collapse, the capitalist paradox. A massive 70% of the US economy, and a very similar figure in the UK, relies purely on human consumption. Our entire financial ecosystem is completely addicted to us buying things, from our daily coffee runs to our late-night Amazon Prime binges. Gawdat even points back to the aftermath of 9/11, when leaders explicitly told citizens that the most patriotic thing they could do to help the country recover was just to go out and keep shopping. The global economy operates on this really simple, healthy circle. Innovators make things and paid workers buy them. But if you break that circle, the whole system fails.
What Gawdat identifies here is essentially the tragedy of the commons playing out right in the corporate world. Look, no single CEO is evil for wanting to replace human labor with AI. They're simply acting logically, right? They want to cut costs, increase productivity, and make sure their own company survives. But when every single business makes that exact same logical choice at the same time, they collectively strip the consumer base of its purchasing power. It is a wild paradox. The very action taken to save a business ultimately destroys the underlying economy that the business actually needs to survive in the first place.
The individual benefit of a capitalist is actively overriding the overwhelming benefit of the society in which they operate. So governments really have to step in here and change the math. They have to prove to corporations that a short-term quarterly profit spike achieved through mass layoffs just isn't worth the total evaporation of their customer base in the long term. Because unless policymakers can clearly explain this impending collapse with mathematical certainty and actually align corporate incentives with societal survival, the consumption side of our GDP is literally going to disappear entirely.
So what are policymakers doing? That leads to Section 3, the government blind spot, a macro problem met with micro solutions. Gawdat argues that policy leaders are completely missing the mark right now in preventing this destabilization. Instead of taking decisive action, they're just stuck in these superficial slogans. While millions of jobs are hanging in the balance, they'll point to micro upskilling programs that might, maybe, help a few hundred people. It's literally like bringing a bucket to a tsunami. But perhaps the most glaring misstep is failing to build domestic technological infrastructure. Instead of creating their own core AI models or enterprise software, nations are just licensing it. They are effectively shipping their national economy revenues straight across the Atlantic, rather than protecting their own citizens' futures. Yet Gawdat really emphasizes that AI itself is not the villain here. It's entirely neutral. Intelligence is a force with no polarity. If you apply it to a purely cost-cutting, hyper-capitalist model, yeah, you might get a dystopia. But if you shift your mindset, it is a massive opportunity. Think about it. A single citizen, a small business, or a developing nation now has access to the equivalent intelligence of 1,000 PhDs for $20 a month. Governments could use this ultimate equalizer right now to rebuild their tech infrastructure in weeks and triple the size of their economies, if they only chose to embrace it as builders rather than just passive consumers. Let's shift gears to Section 4, the human advantage, why we still matter. Despite this pretty alarming economic forecast, Gawdat offers this really beautiful realization about our enduring value. During his television interview, he pointed out a brilliant irony to the host. He said, an AI could have easily generated the interviewer's exact questions, but no one would tune in to watch two machines talk to each other. Why is that? Because we are fundamentally wired for human struggle, for empathy, and for shared lived experiences. Audiences connect with someone who has actually lived through the triumphs and failures they're discussing. We don't just want a raw transmission of data. We actively crave authentic human connection. Sure, AI might be able to compose a technically perfect symphony in seconds today, but it completely fails to replace the irreplaceable, shared experience of humans actually gathering in a room to watch a live performance together. Trust, authenticity, genuine connection, these are the exact spaces where humanity thrives. Before hypercapitalism turned us all into pure productivity units obsessed with output, humans valued each other for our art, our roles in the community, and our mutual trust. Gawdat actually suggests that this AI revolution might force us to remember how to simply be human again, stepping away from the relentless grind and back into our communities. So what can we do today? That's Section 5, How to Prepare Now. Actionable advice for the automated age. He lays out an incredibly clear, practical roadmap to position yourself ahead of the curve. First, don't run from AI. Learn the tools to amplify your own passions and drastically boost your intelligence. Second, get out of your screen. Go meet real people and master the nuanced offline arts of connection, influence, and debate. And third, which he emphasizes as the absolute top skill, learn to aggressively seek the truth. We're entering a world where the cost of generating convincing lies, deep fakes, and massive propaganda has dropped to absolute zero. Protecting your mind and critically assessing information isn't just an intellectual exercise anymore, it's an essential survival skill. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final question to really chew on. The technological wave of 2028 is approaching incredibly fast, and the macroeconomic challenges are very real, but so is your immense potential. As machines inevitably take over the repetitive labor and the cognitive heavy lifting that we used to define ourselves by, how will you cultivate your humanity in an automated world? Thank you so much for joining me, and keep seeking the truth.